The sun had just begun to rise over the quiet streets of Maplewood, a small town known for its peaceful mornings and calm neighborhoods. Most people were still inside their homes, sipping coffee or getting ready for work, unaware that something unusual was about to happen. Among the few cars moving on the main road was a sleek black SUV. Inside, Director Omar Malik of the Federal Bureau of Investigation sat behind the wheel. He was a tall man with sharp eyes and a calm presence, someone who had seen danger in many forms but preferred to approach every situation with careful thought. Today, he was driving to a meeting in the neighboring city, unaware that a simple traffic stop would change the course of the morning. As Malik drove, he noticed a patrol car parked near an intersection ahead. The officer inside seemed tense, constantly shifting in his seat and looking down at a handheld device. Malik slowed his vehicle slightly, signaling his caution. He had learned over the years that attention to detail was essential, even during ordinary drives. The patrol car suddenly turned on its lights and sirens, signaling for Malik to pull over. He complied without hesitation, stopping the SUV on the side of the road. Malik rolled down his window, greeting the officer with a calm voice. "Good morning, officer. May I ask what the stop is for?" Malik asked politely, showing his hands on the steering wheel. The officer stepped out of the patrol car quickly, his boots clicking against the pavement. His face was tense and his hand rested on the side of his duty belt. Malik noticed this and remained calm, though he felt a flicker of unease. "License and registration, please," the officer said, his tone firm but not immediately hostile. Malik handed over his documents with a steady hand. "Everything is in order," he said. "Is there a problem with my driving?" The officer's eyes narrowed. "I need you to step out of the vehicle," he commanded. Malik hesitated. "Officer, may I ask why?" he said in a controlled voice. "I'm just here for a routine drive to the city. I haven't done anything wrong." The officer did not answer immediately. Instead, he drew his sidearm and pointed it at Malik. The cold metal glinted in the morning sun. Malik's calm demeanor did not falter, but his mind raced. He had trained for dangerous situations, yet he knew that every second now counted. "Step out slowly, hands where I can see them," the officer shouted. Malik complied, opening the door and raising his hands above his head. The officer kept his gun aimed steadily, his breathing visible in the crisp morning air. People from nearby houses started peeking through their windows, sensing that something unusual was happening on the street. Malik spoke calmly. "Officer, I assure you I am not a threat. I am the FBI director. You can verify my identity with a quick call." The officer hesitated, his fingers tightening on the trigger. Malik remained still, his voice firm but respectful. "You do not need to use your weapon. I am cooperating fully." After a tense moment, another patrol car arrived. The sound of its siren drew attention from a few early risers on the street. The second officer quickly assessed the situation. "Hold on," the new officer said. "Let's confirm his identity before doing anything else." The first officer, still nervous and unsure, lowered his gun slightly but did not release Malik immediately. The second officer approached and spoke into his radio, verifying Malik's credentials. Within moments, the situation began to clarify. "Sir, I apologize for the misunderstanding," the first officer said, finally lowering his weapon completely. Malik kept his hands raised for a few more seconds, ensuring the officer felt he was not a threat. Then he slowly lowered them and stepped back. Malik adjusted his suit jacket and straightened his tie. "Thank you," he said calmly. "I understand mistakes happen, but this could have been dangerous." The first officer, clearly shaken, nodded but could not meet Malik's eyes. He had acted out of fear and misunderstanding, and the reality of his error began to sink in. The second officer spoke firmly. "We need to follow procedure. Please stay here while we sort this out." Malik agreed, standing beside his SUV, observing the scene with the trained eye of someone used to high-stress environments. He noticed the first officer's trembling hands, the sweat forming on his brow and the slight tension in his posture. This was a person who had acted too quickly without proper verification. The backup officer radioed the dispatch center. Within minutes, more units arrived. A senior officer came to the scene, taking control and directing everyone to remain calm. Malik cooperated fully, knowing that any sign of impatience could escalate the situation again. Meanwhile, the first officer was taken aside by the senior officer. The tense morning silence was now filled with the murmurs of neighbors and the faint hum of traffic. People had begun to gather cautiously, curious about the commotion. Some whispered to each other, wondering why a man of authority had been held at gunpoint. Malik stayed composed, answering questions from the senior officer and providing identification again. He explained his position, the purpose of his visit, and reassured everyone that he had done nothing wrong. The senior officer listened carefully, making notes, clearly recognizing the seriousness of the incident. After about 30 minutes, the tension began to ease. Malik's professionalism and calm attitude had prevented the situation from escalating into something tragic. He realized that one wrong decision in a moment of fear could have had serious consequences. Once all the verification was complete, Malik was allowed to leave. He returned to his SUV, his mind reflecting on how unpredictable life could be. Even someone in his position, trained for danger, could find themselves in a situation where trust and verification were everything. As he drove away, Malik noticed the first officer being led away by senior officials. The man's face was pale and his shoulders were slumped. Malik knew that the consequences for acting without proper judgment would follow. Mistakes like these could not be overlooked, especially when they involved weapons and the safety of others. The streets of Maplewood slowly returned to normal. People went back to their routines, though some could not stop discussing the unusual event that had shaken their quiet town. Malik continued toward his meeting, thoughtful but composed. He understood that the morning's events would be remembered in the department for some time. By the time Malik reached the city, the story had already begun circulating within the local law enforcement channels. Officers discussed how a simple traffic stop had escalated unnecessarily and the lessons that needed to be learned. Malik, however, focused on the bigger picture. He knew that training, calmness, and verification were essential in every interaction, no matter how routine it seemed. Later, he would prepare a report about the incident, emphasizing the importance of procedure and caution. He hoped that this would prevent similar mistakes in the future. The morning's events had reminded him that even in positions of authority, respect, patience, and careful assessment were more valuable than speed or assumptions. For Malik, it was another day in a long career filled with challenges, but this one had a lesson that even he would not forget. He had survived a dangerous situation without conflict, and in doing so, he reminded everyone around him that calmness and professionalism could diffuse even the tensest moments. After the morning incident, Maplewood's police station was buzzing with tension. Officers whispered quietly in the hallways, replaying the events in their minds. The fact that the FBI director had been held at gunpoint weighed heavily on everyone. No one could ignore how serious the situation had become. Inside the station, the first officer, Officer Daniel Hayes, sat in a small, stark interview room. His hands rested on the table, trembling slightly. He had been trained for high-pressure situations, but today he realized that fear and overreaction could lead to grave mistakes. Every time he thought about raising his weapon at Director Malik, his chest tightened with regret. A senior investigator entered the room, closing the door behind him. "Daniel, you know why you're here," he said firmly but without anger. "We need to understand exactly what happened and why it happened." Hayes nodded, swallowing hard. "Yes, sir," he said. His voice was quiet but steady. I thought I was following procedure. I saw a black SUV acting suspiciously. I didn't know who was inside. I panicked." The investigator leaned forward slightly. "Panic is not an excuse when a firearm is involved. You pointed your gun at a high-ranking federal official. Do you understand the seriousness of that?" "Yes, sir," Hayes admitted. I see now that I acted too quickly. I should have confirmed his identity first." The investigator nodded. "We will conduct a full review of your actions. Meanwhile, you will remain on administrative leave. This is standard procedure whenever a firearm is discharged or aimed inappropriately. Do you understand?" Hayes swallowed again. "Yes, sir. I understand. I just didn't want anyone to get hurt." The investigator gave a small, solemn nod. "We know your intentions were not malicious, but intentions are not enough. Today's event could have ended very differently. Your choices will have consequences, and the department must take appropriate action." Meanwhile, news of the incident had spread quickly through local media. By midday, journalists were calling the police station, asking for comments. Citizens who had witnessed the morning's events shared their stories online, some praising Director Malik for remaining calm and professional, others expressing fear about the actions of a local officer. Director Malik, despite the morning's ordeal, had resumed his duties in the city. He had meetings scheduled and cases that demanded his attention, yet the memory of the traffic stop stayed in his mind. He could not forget how quickly a simple misunderstanding could escalate into danger. Back at the police station, Hayes's colleagues reacted in mixed ways. Some were sympathetic, understanding the pressure he faced. Others were critical, pointing out that proper verification could have prevented the incident entirely. The tension in the room was palpable. Everyone knew that the FBI director being threatened could have far-reaching consequences. Later in the afternoon, Hayes met with the police chief. Chief Roberts was a seasoned officer, known for his fairness but also for holding officers accountable. "Daniel," the chief began, "we have reviewed the preliminary reports. Your actions were serious enough to warrant a criminal investigation. Pointing a firearm at anyone without proper cause is unacceptable, and especially so when it involves a federal official." Hayes's head lowered. "I understand, Chief. I accept responsibility. I only wanted to protect the public. I didn't mean to." His voice trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. Chief Roberts sighed. "Intentions aside, the law is clear. You will be taken into custody for questioning. After that, we will decide on formal charges. This is not personal, Daniel. It is about following the law and ensuring accountability." Hayes nodded silently. The weight of his mistake pressed heavily on him. He realized that no amount of training could replace calm judgment in the heat of the moment. One wrong decision could affect not only his career, but the trust of the community. As Hayes was escorted to a holding area, news crews gathered outside the station. Cameras recorded the officers entering and leaving, capturing every detail. Citizens watched from nearby sidewalks, some in disbelief, others in concern. The story of the FBI director being stopped at gunpoint had captured the attention of the town, and now it was unfolding before everyone's eyes. Inside the station, Hayes reflected on the morning. He replayed the events in his mind, analyzing every movement, every decision. He realized that fear had clouded his judgment, and that he had allowed assumptions to guide his actions. The realization was painful but necessary. He knew that accepting responsibility was the only way to move forward. Meanwhile, Chief Roberts called a meeting with senior officers to discuss the implications of the incident. "We need to review our protocols," he said. "This situation should never have happened. Every officer must verify identities, especially when dealing with high-ranking officials. Training must be reinforced and accountability must be clear." The officers nodded in agreement. They understood that the incident was not just about one person's actions, but about the system and the procedures in place. Lessons needed to be learned to prevent future mistakes. As evening approached, Hayes sat quietly in the holding area. He had been given time to reflect, to prepare for the investigation that awaited him. He knew that the charges could include reckless conduct and endangering a federal official, and the weight of that knowledge was heavy. Yet he also knew that facing the consequences was the right path. Outside, Maplewood returned to its usual calm, but the events of the day had left a mark on the town. People discussed the importance of caution, the responsibilities of law enforcement, and the ways in which fear could lead to mistakes. Parents explained to their children that even grown adults could make errors, but taking responsibility was what mattered most. Director Malik, having completed his meetings, returned to his office. He took a moment to write notes about the morning incident. He emphasized the importance of calmness, proper verification, and clear communication. His experience had shown that even the most careful professionals could face danger unexpectedly, and that preparedness and composure were essential. Meanwhile, Hayes was officially charged. The officers escorting him maintained professionalism, but the reality of the situation was clear. He would face legal consequences for his actions, and the department would review every aspect of the incident. Hayes understood this fully and accepted the outcome. He knew that accountability was part of serving as a law enforcement officer. As night fell, the town of Maplewood reflected on the extraordinary events of the day. A routine morning drive had turned into a life-changing incident, with lessons for everyone involved. Trust, caution, and professionalism had been tested, and the consequences of a single decision were undeniable. Hayes, now alone in his cell for the night, thought deeply about the importance of his role. He had joined the force to protect people, to serve the community, and to uphold the law. Today, he realized that serving also meant being responsible for every action, understanding the power he held and respecting the authority of others. By the next morning, the story had spread beyond Maplewood. News outlets reported on the incident with care, highlighting the professionalism of Director Malik and the consequences faced by Officer Hayes. Public officials discussed the importance of proper training and procedures. Maplewood had become an example of how accountability and professionalism were critical in law enforcement. Director Malik continued his work, ensuring that the incident would be studied for lessons learned. Officer Hayes began his process of facing the legal and professional consequences, accepting responsibility and hoping that his experience would teach others the importance of caution, common verification in moments of high tension. The town, while returning to normal routines, carried the memory of that morning. It was a reminder that even small towns could witness extraordinary events, that mistakes could happen anywhere, and that how people responded to those mistakes defined the true measure of responsibility. The morning after Officer Daniel Hayes' arrest, Maplewood was quiet, but the tension from the previous day lingered like a shadow over the town. At the police station, investigators and senior officers moved quickly to gather evidence, review reports, and prepare statements for the upcoming legal proceedings. The incident with FBI Director Omar Malik had captured national attention, and there was pressure on the local department to act responsibly and transparently. Inside the station, Chief Roberts called a meeting with his senior staff. The conference room was bright but somber. Papers were spread across the table and officers were tense, each aware of the gravity of the situation. "We need a complete investigation," Chief Roberts said firmly. "Every detail of yesterday's traffic stop must be documented. We cannot leave room for mistakes, and we must ensure this never happens again." Lieutenant Maya Singh, a careful and thoughtful officer with years of experience, spoke up. "Chief, we also need to review Officer Hayes' training records and his history. While mistakes can happen, we must understand if this was a one-time error or part of a larger problem." Chief Roberts nodded. "Agreed. I want a full review, including statements from all witnesses, dashcam footage, and communication logs. Everything must be accounted for." Meanwhile, Officer Hayes was in a holding area, waiting to meet with a legal representative. He felt a mixture of fear, shame, and resolve. He knew that what he had done could not be undone, but he also understood that cooperating fully with the investigation was essential. A young attorney named Rebecca Lang entered the room. She was calm and precise, with a reputation for guiding clients through challenging situations. Hayes looked up, relief washing over him slightly. "Daniel, we will go through everything step by step," she said gently. "The most important thing is honesty. You need to tell the truth exactly as it happened." Hayes nodded. "I understand, Ms. Lang. I never thought a simple traffic stop could turn into something so serious." Rebecca offered a reassuring smile. "This is not uncommon. Many officers face high-pressure moments. The key is how you respond now. We will work to show that you acted out of fear, but that you are taking full responsibility." While Hayes prepared for his statement, the FBI was quietly reviewing the incident as well. Director Malik had submitted a detailed report to his superiors, outlining what had happened and emphasizing the professionalism he had maintained throughout the confrontation. He highlighted how a single misjudgment could have resulted in disaster, and he recommended that the FBI assist the local department in improving officer training and procedures. Back in Maplewood, community members began discussing the incident openly. Town meetings were scheduled, where residents could ask questions and share concerns. Many expressed relief that no one had been hurt, while others were curious about the legal consequences for Officer Hayes. Parents worried about how to explain such incidents to their children, and local schools decided to hold discussions about safety, authority, and responsibility. The next day, Officer Hayes was formally charged with reckless conduct and improper use of a firearm. He appeared in court, his head held low, knowing that the public would be watching closely. The courtroom was filled with reporters, legal staff, and concerned citizens. Every eye seemed focused on him, waiting to see how he would respond. Judge Thomas Bell presided over the proceedings, a man known for fairness but also strict adherence to the law. He addressed Hayes directly. "Officer Hayes, you are charged with serious offenses. You had a duty to uphold the law and protect others. Your actions have endangered a federal official and compromised public trust. How do you plead?" Hayes took a deep breath. "Your Honor, I plead guilty to acting recklessly. I take full responsibility for my actions," the courtroom murmured quietly. Some were surprised at his honesty, while others were still critical. Judge Bell nodded solemnly. "Acknowledging responsibility is important, but it does not erase the consequences. We will review the circumstances carefully before deciding on sentencing." As the court session continued, the media outside reported on the details. Headlines focused on the fact that the FBI director had been held at gunpoint and that the local officer had faced charges. Citizens debated the incident online and in person, discussing the importance of proper training, calm decision-making, and accountability. Meanwhile, within the police station, Lieutenant Singh and Chief Roberts reviewed the footage from Hayes's dashcam and body camera. Every detail was scrutinized: the approach to the vehicle, the commands given, the officer's reactions, and the sequence of events leading to the drawing of the weapon. They compared these actions to departmental procedures and identified several points where Hayes had failed to follow protocol. "Chief, this shows where additional training is necessary," Singh said. "It isn't just about Hayes. We need to ensure that every officer knows how to handle stops involving high-profile individuals or unfamiliar situations." Chief Roberts agreed. "We will implement refresher courses immediately. We cannot risk a repeat of yesterday's incident. Every officer must understand the importance of verification and calm assessment." In the days following the arrest, community outreach became a priority. Chief Roberts and other senior officers held meetings with local residents to explain what had happened and the steps being taken to prevent similar situations. They emphasized transparency, accountability, and safety. Hayes, meanwhile, continued to reflect on his actions. He met regularly with his attorney and the department's internal review board. Every meeting reminded him of the seriousness of his mistake, but he also found a sense of purpose in helping to improve procedures for the future. He realized that acknowledging fault and learning from it could prevent harm to others. Director Malik from the FBI side made a public statement. He praised the professionalism of the backup officers who had arrived on the scene and emphasized the importance of verifying identities before taking action. His calm and measured words reassured the public and helped to prevent panic or anger from escalating. The investigation also revealed that the first officer's behavior had been influenced by stress and recent departmental pressures. While these factors did not excuse the actions, they highlighted the importance of mental health support, training, and clear communication within law enforcement agencies. Chief Roberts ordered new programs to help officers manage stress and make decisions under pressure. As the story continued to unfold, Hayes began attending training sessions not as a student, but as a participant helping others learn from his mistake. He spoke candidly to fellow officers about the importance of calm judgment, verifying identities, and managing fear in high-pressure situations. His experience became a case study within the department, a real-life example of how even small errors could have serious consequences. For the citizens of Maplewood, the incident became a reminder of the complex responsibilities of law enforcement. Many felt reassured that proper procedures were being reviewed, and the town worked together to restore trust between the community and the police. Discussions about safety, responsibility, and accountability continued, and local schools incorporated lessons from the event into programs about law, authority, and civic responsibility. By the end of the week, the situation had reached a new level of clarity. Officer Hayes remained under legal supervision. The internal review had identified procedural gaps, and training programs were being implemented to prevent future mistakes. Director Malik returned to his regular duties, but he stayed informed about the outcomes of the investigation and the steps being taken to improve safety and protocol. Even though the town returned to its routines, the memory of that tense morning remained vivid. Residents remembered seeing a high-ranking federal official stopped at gunpoint and the swift consequences that followed. They realized the importance of calm, measured decisions and the value of accountability in every action. both for officers and for citizens alike. For Officer Hayes, the lessons of that day would stay with him forever. He had experienced fear, responsibility, and public scrutiny all at once. Yet through reflection, accountability, and active participation in reform, he found a path forward, a chance to make amends and help others avoid the mistakes he had made. The story of Maplewood's tense morning would remain in the town's history as a turning point, a day when a simple traffic stop became a lesson in responsibility, calm judgment, and the importance of following procedures, even under extreme stress. The following week brought a new level of intensity to Maplewood. Officer Daniel Hayes' case had become more than a local issue. It was now being observed by state authorities and federal agencies alike. The morning incident in which FBI Director Omar Malik had been held at gunpoint had triggered a thorough review of police procedures, training programs, and accountability measures. The town felt the weight of national attention, and every action by the police department was under close scrutiny. Inside the police station, Chief Roberts gathered his senior staff for a planning session. The room was filled with papers, reports, and video footage from body cameras and dash cams. Lieutenant Maya Singh reviewed the timeline carefully, pointing to key moments in the traffic stop. "This is where things went wrong," Singh said, her finger indicating the exact second when Hayes drew his weapon. "We need to analyze why he acted without verification. Fear alone should never determine the use of a firearm." Chief Roberts nodded, his face serious. "We've already identified gaps in training and stress management. Now we need to implement solutions immediately. Officers must understand that identity verification, calm communication, and protocol adherence are essential." Meanwhile, Hayes met with his attorney, Rebecca Lang, to discuss the upcoming proceedings. The legal process was stressful, but Hayes was determined to cooperate fully. He knew that honesty and transparency were critical if he wanted to restore even a portion of his professional credibility. "Daniel," Rebecca said gently, "the investigation will examine everything from start to finish. Your cooperation and acceptance of responsibility will be essential. You must be ready to answer questions about your decision-making, your actions, and your awareness of procedures." Hayes nodded. "I understand. I know I made a serious mistake. I just want to ensure that something good comes out of this, that other officers learn from my error and no one else is put at risk." Outside the station, the town continued to buzz with conversations about the incident. People who had witnessed the traffic stop shared their experiences with neighbors, emphasizing how calm and professional Director Malik had remained despite the danger. Local businesses posted statements reminding citizens that safety and accountability were priorities for law enforcement. Within the department, Hayes' colleagues began to reflect on their own responsibilities. Officers who had not been directly involved in the incident took part in training programs designed to reinforce proper protocol during traffic stops and encounters with high-profile individuals. The department emphasized teamwork, communication, and thorough verification before any action could be taken. As the week progressed, the legal proceedings began to take shape. Hayes was scheduled to appear before a judge for formal hearings. The courtroom was tense, filled with reporters, local officials, and citizens curious about the outcome. Hayes remained calm, knowing that his honesty and cooperation were his strongest tools. Judge Thomas Bell presided over the session with authority. "Officer Hayes, your actions endangered a federal official and violated departmental procedures. The law requires that accountability be enforced. You have pled guilty and acknowledged responsibility. Today, we will determine the appropriate course of action." Hayes listened attentively, understanding the gravity of the situation. He felt a mixture of fear and determination, knowing that his decisions today would shape his future and influence the trust the community had in the police department. During the proceedings, Director Malik's statement was submitted to the court. He described the incident calmly and objectively, highlighting the professionalism he maintained while emphasizing the importance of verification and restraint. Malik's words reinforced the seriousness of Hayes' mistake, while also underscoring the potential for lessons to be learned from the event. After the initial hearing, the focus shifted back to the police department. Chief Roberts and Lieutenant Singh began reviewing the outcomes of the internal investigation. They examined each officer's actions, training records, and response to the incident. They realized that the issue was not solely Hayes' fault, but also a reflection of systemic gaps in communication, verification processes, and stress management. We cannot place all the blame on Daniel, Singh said thoughtfully. We need to address the system that allowed this to happen. Training, mental health support, and clear protocols must all be strengthened. Otherwise, another officer could make the same mistake. Chief Roberts agreed. This is an opportunity for change. We will implement new programs, revise training manuals, and conduct scenario-based exercises to prepare officers for high-pressure situations. This incident will serve as a turning point for our department. At the same time, Hayes began to understand the broader impact of his actions. He started participating in workshops for officers, sharing his experience candidly and explaining the emotional and mental pressures that led to his error. He emphasized the importance of calm judgment, verification, and effective communication during all encounters. I want other officers to learn from my mistake, Hayes told a group of trainees. Fear can cloud judgment, but proper procedure and training can save lives. What I did could have ended in tragedy. It is our duty to ensure that never happens again. The town of Maplewood also felt the impact of the changes. Community meetings continued, focusing on building trust between law enforcement and residents. Chief Roberts and other senior officers addressed questions, provided updates, and explained the measures being taken to prevent similar incidents in the future. Citizens appreciated the transparency and the efforts to strengthen safety. Meanwhile, the media reported on the legal and departmental responses. Headlines highlighted Director Malik's calm handling of the situation and the swift accountability measures taken by the police department. Public discussions emphasized lessons in professionalism, calm decision-making, and responsibility. Maplewood became an example of how a community and law enforcement could respond constructively to a serious incident. Hayes, though still under supervision, felt a sense of purpose in contributing to positive change. He worked with trainers to develop realistic scenarios, helping officers practice verification, communication, and risk assessment in controlled environments. His involvement demonstrated a commitment to learning from mistakes and improving the overall safety and professionalism of the department. Director Malik continued his work with the FBI but remained informed about the progress in Maplewood. He supported the efforts to strengthen procedures and training, recognizing that incidents like these could happen anywhere. Malik emphasized the importance of learning from mistakes and ensuring that law enforcement agencies were prepared for unexpected situations. As weeks passed, Maplewood slowly returned to its usual rhythm, but the lessons from the traffic stop remained in the minds of officers and citizens alike. The incident had revealed vulnerabilities in training and procedure, highlighted the importance of calm judgment, and underscored the value of accountability. For Hayes, the experience became a defining moment. He had faced fear, responsibility, and public scrutiny, and he had accepted the consequences of his actions. Through reflection, training, and active participation in reform, he found a way to turn a mistake into a lesson that could benefit others. The town of Maplewood, while returning to its routines, carried the memory of that tense morning. Citizens remembered how quickly a simple traffic stop could become dangerous and how professionalism, calmness, and verification could prevent harm. The incident became a story told not with fear, but with lessons about responsibility, accountability, and growth. Chief Roberts summarized the lessons in a department-wide meeting. This was a serious incident, he said, but we have taken steps to ensure it becomes a turning point. Training, verification, communication, and accountability are more important than ever. We must remember that every decision has consequences, and our actions define the trust between law enforcement and the community. Hayes, sitting in the back, nodded. He understood that the road ahead would be challenging, but he also knew that his experience could help others avoid similar mistakes. He had learned the importance of responsibility, the weight of authority, and the value of calm decision-making under pressure. Maplewood, now more aware and engaged, continued to support constructive conversations about safety and accountability. Citizens and officers alike worked together to rebuild trust and ensure that every encounter between law enforcement and the public prioritized verification, calmness, and professionalism. The incident that had begun as a routine traffic stop had transformed into a powerful lesson. It had challenged a community, tested an officer, and highlighted the importance of accountability, training, and careful judgment. Through reflection, cooperation, and reform, Maplewood had turned a tense moment into an opportunity for growth, improvement, and understanding. Weeks had passed since the tense morning when Officer Daniel Hayes had held FBI Director Omar Malik at gunpoint. Maplewood had slowly returned to its usual rhythm, but the impact of that day remained in the minds of both the town's residents and the local law enforcement. Officer Hayes had faced intense scrutiny, legal proceedings, and a thorough review of his actions, while Director Malik continued his work, quietly ensuring that the lessons from the incident would be remembered. Hayes's days were now filled with reflection, training, and preparation for the final stages of his legal proceedings. Each morning, he would review reports, discuss protocol with instructors, and participate in scenario-based exercises designed to reinforce proper procedure. He had become a model of accountability, demonstrating to others how a serious mistake could be transformed into an opportunity for learning and growth. Rebecca Lang, his attorney, helped him navigate the process. "Daniel, your cooperation and honesty have been noted," she said one morning as they reviewed documents together. "The court and the department are seeing that you are taking responsibility. That is important both legally and personally." Hayes nodded. "I want to make sure that something positive comes from my mistake," he said quietly. "I don't want anyone else to go through what I went through, and I want the department to be stronger because of it." Meanwhile, the Maplewood Police Department continued its reforms. Chief Roberts had implemented new training programs focusing on verification, communication, and risk assessment. Officers participated in regular workshops, learning how to handle high-pressure situations calmly and professionally. Mental health support had been increased, and stress management became a central part of the department's approach to law enforcement. The town's residents took notice. Community meetings were held to discuss the improvements and to ensure that citizens felt safe and informed. Many were impressed by how seriously the department had taken the incident, and they appreciated the transparency that had been maintained throughout the process. Maplewood had turned a frightening moment into an opportunity for growth and collaboration between law enforcement and the community. On the morning of his final court hearing, Hayes arrived at the courthouse early. He was calm, dressed neatly, and prepared to face the consequences of his actions. The courtroom was filled with reporters, local officials, and curious citizens. Everyone knew that the final decision would send a strong message about accountability and professionalism. Judge Thomas Bell presided over the hearing with his usual focus and authority. "Officer Hayes," he began, "you have admitted to acting recklessly and acknowledged full responsibility. You have participated in training, cooperated with the investigation, and assisted in departmental reforms. The court recognizes these efforts." Hayes listened carefully, understanding the gravity of the moment. He had already accepted that consequences were necessary, but he also felt a sense of pride in knowing that his actions, however mistaken, had led to positive changes. "The court," Judge Bell continued, "will take into account your cooperation, your acknowledgement of responsibility, and your efforts to assist in preventing future incidents. You will face a period of probation, continued supervision, and additional training." This sentence reflects both accountability and the opportunity for rehabilitation. Hayes nodded respectfully. "Yes, Your Honor," he said. "I understand and accept the court's decision." As the hearing concluded, Director Malik arrived to provide a brief statement. He spoke with calm authority, emphasizing the professionalism of the officers who had responded to the situation, the importance of verification, and the lessons learned from the incident. His words reassured the community and highlighted the value of calm judgment, preparation, and accountability. "Today," Malik said, "we recognize that mistakes can happen, even among trained professionals. What matters is how we respond. Officer Hayes has taken responsibility, and the department has acted to ensure that such an incident will not occur again. This is a moment for learning, growth, and improvement for all involved." After the hearing, Hayes returned to the police department. The atmosphere was one of reflection and quiet optimism. Officers approached him with respect, acknowledging his honesty and the efforts he had made to improve departmental procedures. Hayes realized that while the road had been difficult, he had earned a measure of trust and understanding through his actions. The town of Maplewood continued to discuss the incident and its lessons. Parents explained to their children the importance of responsibility, calm judgment, and following rules. Community programs included discussions about law enforcement, safety, and accountability. Residents felt reassured that their police department was taking meaningful steps to prevent similar mistakes. Hayes also began mentoring new officers, sharing his experience and emphasizing the importance of preparation, verification, and professionalism. He explained how fear and uncertainty could cloud judgment, but that careful assessment and calm communication could prevent harm. His story became a powerful teaching tool within the department. Every decision matters, Hayes would tell the trainees. Even in small moments, the choices we make can affect lives. Learn from my mistake. Use caution, follow procedures, and never let fear drive your actions. Director Malik, back at FBI headquarters, monitored the reforms and maintained correspondence with Chief Roberts and Lieutenant Singh. He praised their commitment to training, accountability, and community engagement. Malik understood that a single incident could serve as a catalyst for positive change if handled correctly. Months passed, and Maplewood gradually moved forward. The police department became stronger, better trained, and more aware of the importance of calm judgment and verification. Officer Hayes continued to serve the community under supervision, committed to learning and improving every day. The citizens of Maplewood felt safer and more confident in the professionalism of their local law enforcement. One quiet morning, Hayes drove through the streets of Maplewood, reflecting on the past months. He had faced fear, responsibility, and public scrutiny. He had learned about the weight of authority, the importance of careful decision-making, and the value of accountability. The memory of that morning with Director Malik would remain with him, but it no longer brought shame. Instead, it served as a reminder of growth, learning, and resilience. Director Malik, reviewing reports from the local police department, felt satisfaction in the outcome. The incident had been serious, but the response had been measured and effective. The lessons learned in Maplewood could now be applied elsewhere, emphasizing the importance of preparation, calm judgment, and accountability in every encounter. For Maplewood, the story became part of the town's history. It was a tale of tension, responsibility, and ultimately growth. Residents told the story not as a warning of fear, but as an example of how mistakes could lead to improvement, how accountability could restore trust, and how professionalism and calm judgment could prevent harm. Officer Hayes, once overwhelmed by fear and regret, had become a symbol of responsibility and resilience. He had faced consequences, accepted them fully, and worked to ensure that others could learn from his experience. Director Malik remained a figure of calm authority, reinforcing the importance of preparation and professionalism. The morning sun rose over Maplewood once again, peaceful and quiet. The streets were filled with ordinary activity, yet beneath the surface a profound lesson had taken root. Every officer, every citizen, and every leader had learned the value of calm judgment, accountability, and the power of turning mistakes into lessons. In the end, the town had emerged stronger, the department had become wiser, and the individuals involved had grown. The incident that began as a simple traffic stop had transformed into a story of reflection, responsibility, and positive change. Maplewood would remember it not for fear, but for the way a community and its leaders responded with integrity, professionalism, and commitment to improvement. As Hayes parked his car and stepped out onto the familiar streets, he took a deep breath. The town around him was calm, the people busy with their lives, and yet he felt a sense of fulfillment. He had faced his mistakes, learned from them, and helped others do the same. The future was uncertain, but now it was filled with purpose, responsibility, and hope. The story of that tense morning had reached its conclusion, but its lessons would live on in Maplewood, in the hearts of officers and in the minds of citizens. It was a story of accountability, growth, and the enduring power of calm, professional judgment in the face of fear.